So when I first got into this business as a full-time actor, I thought I was the only lone oddball in my hometown. That changed when I met my guest, Sarah Lynn Dewey. How are you, my dear?
I'm well. How are you?
You know, you know, but
Living the dream.
living the dream. Exactly. So it's nice to have company in the trenches. And I had your company pretty early on, and I'm grateful for that. We met in South Philly. We were hanging out at Gino's Steaks, and I think we did a commercial for
God.
some cable outfit.
Oh my God. Who was that for? DirecTV.
If it wasn't DirecTV, then it was another competitor, and we were there, and you
No,
put it.
Dish Network. It was Dish Network.
There you go. That's it.
There we go.
I knew it was something different, but I remember we were somewhere near Gino's Steaks in South Philly, and I met you while you were putting your eyes in
Yep.
contacts. And I'm like, okay. And then you said, oh, I'm from the same hometown as you. I'm like, okay, cool. So we were living like a mile apart, not even a mile apart. I didn't even know it. And then we go and we do the gig in front of Gino's, and it was with a local production company, and they had all the bells and whistles out. They had on the long lenses on the cameras. We were in the middle of the street. We were causing a scene. And I remember we drew a crowd. We really did.
Yeah.
There were probably a few dozen people looking at us on the sidewalk. And I swear I remember hearing one person on their phone going, "Get down to Gino's Steaks. Ryan Seacrest is doing a commercial." And it took every ounce of energy for me to stay in character and not break character and look at the person and say, I am not Ryan Seacrest.
I don't even know like how you get the two of you confused. Like,
I don't know.
not someone you would stand in for.
No, people see what they want to see, I guess, and they come to their own conclusions. Even though I was only maybe 40, 50 feet away from this individual, they just decided, oh, maybe he's in town. Maybe they're doing an idol filming. This has to be him. I would just
Logical jump.
I would just jump to conclusions.
Yep.
Anyway, but it's been wine and roses ever since having your association. So I do appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you too. It's good to have a reader so close by.
See that? See that? But let me just start at your beginning. You are from the Virginia Peninsula.
Mm-hmm.
So what was life like in Poquoson?
Yeah, so I grew up in a one-stoplight town in Virginia called Poquoson. You have no reason to go there unless you're going there. Like it's not like you're going to drive through it by chance. So it's right on the Chesapeake Bay. It was my mom and my dad and my little brother. And it's one of those small towns where everyone knows everyone's business. So you kind of, I mean, I was a good kid anyway, but you really didn't have a choice but to be a good kid because it's going to get back to your parents if you're not. Between church or just running to the grocery store or, my dad has to bring a book to school for me. And the very first time my father ever brought a book to the office for me that I'd left behind. Oh, hi, Mr. Dewey. I'd never been here before. Oh, yeah, your daughter looks just like you. Wow. Like it was that kind of small town where everyone just knows everyone. Yeah. So I was the weird theater kid. I was the one who was walking around singing and taking voice lessons and learning how to sing in Italian, which was like really bizarre to everybody else. So yeah, I was definitely like the weird theater kid that people did not understand at all.
Mm-hmm. Were you tethered to your hometown or did you want to get out right away?
So there just isn't a lot to do there in terms of the arts. We had a community theater, PIPS, Poquoson Island Players, when I was growing up, and I did some work with them, but it was just such a small community that in order to get any kind of either experience or artistic outlet, you kind of had to get out of that town. So I ended up working with the Hurrah Players, which was down on the south side, which for those not from my area, the James River separates Tidewater from the south side. So I, go down there and do shows with them. or doing shows at other local community theaters. I had the opportunity to work, do a couple of shows at a local university. So getting some basically AP theater credit, even though it didn't count in college, but just getting some advanced experience, both through just auditioning and then through my mom, who did costume design.
Wow.
Which I kind of dragged her into, and then she got really good at it and ended up working at a bunch of places that I kind of got into.
So you got the ball rolling.
Yeah.
As a youth.
Mm-hmm.
I assume that carried into high school.
Oh, yeah. So my mom was working at, Founders Inn and Christopher Newport, which is a university down there, and a bunch of other theaters where I ended up, getting some experience, both on stage, but also kind of being her assistant a little bit, which I think was really good for me to kind of have some kind of backstage experience. I feel like it gives me a real appreciation for people who do the stuff that you don't necessarily see all the work that goes in. You don't see, the poor person who's running to Target for you at 2:00 in the morning picking wardrobe because the director decided they wanted you in an orange shirt. That's a true story. But yeah, so like all of that type of stuff, I feel like I've got such an appreciation for people that do hair and makeup and wardrobe and props and all of these things that are a little bit thankless. Mm-hmm. Just because I kind of got to work with my mom in that way.
Right. Yeah, we're nothing without a crew, aren't we?
Yeah. I mean, for every one person you see on camera, there's like 10 people off camera that are making sure you look like you're supposed to look.
Mm-hmm. That's the thing. And you feel a responsibility.
Yeah. Which is why I like, this is my personal thing. I hate when they call the actor the talent and everybody else is the grip or props or wardrobe or what. I hate that. It's like, no, you guys have talent too. I have no idea what lens to put on that camera. I don't know how to do that. I just have a different set of skills. Yeah.
Our term is an adjective. It's like,
I don't know.
You are this. You are a feeling in addition to a job.
But yeah, I always hear that, like the talent. I'm like, can you just call me an actor?
Right.
That's because that's what I do.
I thought it was kind of odd too when I first heard the word talent when I worked in QVC, and I thought, wait a second, who the hell's the talent? Oh, the show host. Duh. Yeah. So that when I first heard the word and I wasn't accustomed to it, it did throw me a bit.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I just feel like it's demeaning to the other people who have talents. They're just not the ones that I have.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed. I have a new appreciation for that. Thank you for shining a light on that word. I won't look at that word the same way again. It's interesting. When I was preparing for our conversation, I discovered that you and I were nearly college classmates.
Where?
At Ithaca.
Ithaca. Okay.
In upstate New York. The story, I had no idea you went to Ithaca. And my story is that in my junior year, I discovered we were college searching and prepping, and I discovered Ithaca they had a really great communication program. Mm-hmm. And I went and I visited, and I discovered that I could do a semester in Los Angeles studying film in my junior year. That's it. I'm done. Sign me up. I applied first decision, whatever the term is called.
Early decision. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, this is where I'm going. So all they had to do was open the door. Took my SATs twice. Both times I scored a whopping 780 on my SATs.
Oh, no.
So I guess in the eyes of the state, I am what you call an overachiever. Long story short, another classmate took the SATs and wanted to go to Ithaca, and he got a 1,500. And they looked at his 1,500, they looked at my 780 and said, we're going to take your friend. Thank you for playing Paul.
It was just on your SAT score? That's such garbage.
Yeah, my GPA, our GPAs were identical, but on standardized testing, I did not score well. And they took my classmate. They didn't take me. So I was rejected by Ithaca.
I'm sorry. I don't even know that I necessarily would have ended up meeting you because I was a music major and we were very isolated. I mean, seriously, like it was so insular. because most of your classes were in your major. So I had to take like one English class, one math class. The most I was ever out of the building was because I was an opera major. I had to take a foreign language. So I opted to take French. So that was the most I think I was ever out of the building. My sophomore year, every single class is in your major. Like we almost never left the building. It's like, I know there's other people that go to this school. I haven't met any of them because I live in this building. That's why all the sophomores are depressed.
That was my one concern. That was the concern my parents had because they realized it wasn't a liberal arts college. It was your major and all your major. Yeah. Do you think that hindered you at all or no?
I think the biggest hindrance for me in college was honestly, I feel like I wasn't given the correct information when I applied to college. Because I never wanted to do opera. But when I was auditioning for schools, everyone in the musical theater world was looking for the next Sutton Foster because she was the big thing when I was auditioning for college. So everyone was looking for that big belty voice, which I have figured out how to do now. But at the time, I had no idea how to use that part of my voice. So I was auditioning with, Showboat and very legit, very classical musical theater. So I ended up getting accepted into opera programs at some schools, but not very many musical theater programs. And Ithaca had said, oh no, our programs get along really well. There's a lot of crossover between the two. That's not true. That was not true at all. It was a school of music, school of theater. And you might have, I think my 4 years I was there was one opera major who got to be in a musical. And it was because they were doing a Little Night music, which is very operatic.
So Ithaca lied in the brochure?
No, they lied to my face, which I think is worse.
Wow.
Now, the funny thing is I just saw something yesterday, got sent to my email that they are combining the schools, which I think is great. Mm-hmm. So it's now going to be the School of Music, Theater, and Dance or something like that, which I think is good because there is a lot of crossover between opera and musical theater. Ask Kelly O'Hara.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, because she just, got nominated for Tony and then turned around and did a show at the Met. So you can do both, despite what some people subscribe to.
So is your soprano training by accident?
No. So when I was first getting trained, getting voice lessons, that's just like the natural place where my voice kind of sits, is that kind of high soprano, very mobile voice. And it was very important to my voice teacher, but I think it should be important to all young voices to learn how to sing classically, because then you can learn how to do other things with your voice. You want to teach good vocal technique because we only get one. It's not like I can, like a violin, I can go out and buy a new one, right? I messed this up because I'm phonating incorrectly or doing horrible things to my chords. I can't go out and buy a new one. If I get nodes, that might be it forever. So yeah, just like making sure you're trained properly, which a lot of that is classical training. And then you figure out how to do the other things like, okay, here's how I belt, here's how I mix, here's how I do some of these other musical theater styles because it's founded in good technique.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Interesting. So you endured the fibs of Ithaca.
Yeah.
You head back south, and then you head back home to Virginia, and then eventually you migrate to the Philadelphia area.
Yep.
And we'll get to the on-camera work, the voiceover work, the instructional videos, the ad campaigns, but it's a laundry list of theater for you. I'll just rattle off a few credits. Amy's View, where you were Amy, ISIS Productions, a touring children's theater production of Dear America. You traveled to 6-7 states with the Pushcart Players for over 2 years. World premiere of No Longer Warriors at the Act Out Theater. Chorus Line, Fiddler on the Roof, Christmas Carol, Beauty and the Beast. Showboat, Babes in Toyland, Annie Get Your Gun, Guys and Dolls, Chicago, Fiddler Again, King and I, Pinocchio at the Weather Vane Repertory. I mean, it's you really racked up the credits. And just give me one or two like off the wall insane production or performance stories from just one of those shows.
Oh gosh.
Give us a sense of what theater is really like.
Well, I mean, the whole like the show must go on thing. It doesn't matter what happens. Set piece, falls over. Someone loses a costume. You keep going. And it's funny because I hadn't even thought about this before we started talking, but this is the one that popped into my head. So, in The King and I was playing one of the wives, which would never happen now because I am far too white to be doing that show. But there's a scene where Anna dresses all of the Siamese wives in English attire, meaning the big hoop skirt from like the 1860s. Because the turnaround time on these shows was so short, we did not actually get those costumes until opening night. Which it's not a huge deal, we didn't think, because we're literally in them for 5 minutes, maybe 10. We were in them for that long. But the problem is, at one point, we're all sitting there, in our hoop skirts, and a gentleman from the English court comes in with a monocle, and we all scream, "Oh no, it's the evil eye!" And we all scatter because we don't understand what a monocle is. And because we had not rehearsed with these skirts before, we had a collision and I fell off the stage. Fortunately, I fell off the stage in the perfect place. I actually ended up falling into the aisle, which was not very wide. I kind of looked around, made sure I was okay. I looked at the guy playing the king and then ran off stage left. I get backstage and everyone's like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" I'm like, think so. I have to change for the ballet. Bye. So I just did my costume change and continued the show. I think I bruised my elbow, but yeah, just like things like that where everyone, and the poor guy playing the king, who's a friend of mine, has to go through the whole next scene having no idea if I'm okay or not. He just has to continue the show and then, all right, guess I'll see her at curtain call or not.
That happened to me in college. I have the dubious distinction of punching myself inadvertently.
How does one do that?
I was sitting on the stage, Indian style, and I had to get up quickly and run to the other side of the stage. I got up on my feet, and as I began to run, my legs locked up, and my legs stayed firmly on the ground while my upper body lunged forward. So I literally threw myself onto the stage. And while I was trying to break my fall, my arm that was out in front of me, I ended up having my elbow go into my sternum as I hit the stage. And I literally knocked the wind out of me.
Oh my God.
So for about 2 seconds, which lasted about 2 hours, I could not physically breathe. Oh God. And the thought went through my head, oh my God, this is it. I'm going to.
This is how I die
here on this little pithy black box stage in suburban Philadelphia. I'm a goner because my legs locked up. And we were able to laugh about it. I got the line out. I had a line seconds later, and I literally sounded like Tom Waits gargling chunks of asphalt as I got the line out. I don't know how it happened, but we were able to laugh about it later. And my theater professor said, "Congratulations, Paul, on taking up your new sport, skydiving." So, a little humble pie was eaten, and we moved on. But yeah, it's, accidents, can really become, concerning.
Yeah, I had a costume break on me on stage. That was mildly terrifying.
Okay.
So doing Annie Get Your Gun, I was in the ensemble, and I was understudying Annie. And I go in, doing the show, and we get to the big party in Act 2, and it's not a completely off the shoulder dress, but it's sitting right on the edge of my shoulders. And I can get to the end of the music number and I put my hands up and the zipper breaks. Thank God my dresser had hooked the hook at the top, or I would have had no dress.
God.
And I was the understudy. I'm already freaking out about having to carry a show. I'd remember all the words, remember all the lines, and now I have a broken zipper. So the guy who was playing Sitting Bull very quickly rushes in with my fur and puts it around me. I'm like, thank you. So then for the rest of the scene, because I still have a whole other song I have to do, I'm like, I'm just going to stand like this and it will be perfectly normal for the next 10 minutes that I'm on stage until I can change clothes. It did make my next costume change go very quickly, though.
Thank God that you have fellow actors on stage with instinct.
Yeah.
And they know what to do in the moment. And I think there's also that cushion where something can go wrong, a line can be flubbed, a mark can be missed, and yet it's going to take a while for the audience to catch on.
Right. Especially if nobody on stage acts like anything is weird. If you just kind of go with it and operate on the idea that the understudy is always right. It doesn't matter what they do, they are right, and you roll with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Always roll with it. Never ever stop.
Yes.
Just like improv. Yes and.
Yep. Yes and until you die.
Beautiful. Well, obviously you are a consummate professional on the stage, but yet being in the Philly market, inevitably you start to get your feet wet in modeling, promo work, commercials, independent films. You've done quite a few, at least from what I can count, at least a dozen independent films on IMDb.
Yep.
You were in an episode of Evil Lives Here, which is on ID Go. She Should Be Left to Die is the title. The self-explanatory with that one.
I'm horrible in that episode. I'm horrible.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we won't watch it then. We won't.
Well, no. This woman she's still alive, has issues. But when people were asking me, how do you play someone who's this level of just a horrible human being? I said, she doesn't think she's horrible. She thinks everything she does is completely justified. That's how. Because no one's the villain in their own story.
No, and that brings up a great point. I mean, acting, in my estimation, is not for the faint of heart. This is, we're walking on eggshells. We're walking around swords, in the sense of we have to find the character in ourselves, and we find ourselves in the character.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of these characters are not great individuals, but yet we have to suspend our judgment. We have to have compassion and empathy, and we have to embody aspects of some of these people in ourselves.
Yeah.
Case in point with your ID show, and I played a serial killer at one point.
Mm-hmm.
I remember still shaking at lunch after we filmed some pretty, horrific scenes. And I think that's where it separates the people who just have ideas about performing, who watch a lot of Entertainment Tonight and Access Hollywood, versus really being a performer. And if you're not really a performer, you're going to get off the bus pretty quickly because of situations like this.
Well, it's exhausting.
It is.
Both literally physically exhausting and just emotionally exhausting. But if this is not, if you're going to get told no enough times that if this is not for you, you're going to bounce pretty quick. You have to be able to take if you book one job out of every 100 auditions, you are doing real well, my friend. And it just, you have to love what you do enough that being told no doesn't matter.
That's the thing. You have to endure the rejection. You have to find a way to survive. And it's interesting because we would see our competition. We would see who was all vying for a job before the pandemic. We would be in the room. We would be at the casting office. Now it's not that way anymore. I was not so subtly reminded of who who we're dealing with recently. I saw a video. The Happy Gilmore 2 sequel had a casting call for background up in North Jersey at a...
Oh, okay.
And I saw a picture of it, and sure enough, the line went around the block. It was just a steady stream of thousands of individuals. And that reminded me of when I first attempted to get into showbiz. Years and years ago, I went to an open call for Rocky Balboa in downtown Philly. I went to hearing casting, and I drove down the 4th Street where they were in Philly, thinking, all right, finally I'm going to do this. Yay. And I get down there, I get off I-95, and sure enough, there are people around the block just to get a Polaroid taken, or maybe a few of them had headshots. I was so intimidated, I never stopped the car. I went around the block in my car. I got right back on 95, and I said, F this. There's no way.
Yeah.
Thank God I didn't listen to myself, and I didn't let that experience shape my future. But
audition.
But yeah, my point being is that, you know, just like you said, anytime you book a gig, it's a blessing. You know, and I think and I have this friendly argument with other acting friends about the element of luck. You know, and I think to deny luck is to deny the hundreds and thousands of other performers who can just as easily do this job. Otherwise, why would they get an audition from casting?
Right. I mean, when you get to a certain point, like, everyone's talented, right?
Yeah.
Like, you get to a certain point, like, everyone has talent, or we wouldn't still be doing this. Or they wouldn't have gotten the invite in the first place. But at a certain point, it's a little bit of it's luck, a little bit of it is connections, and it's not just the whole, like, it's who you know. No, it's who knows you. Because, you know, someone could have seen me in something going, oh, I really liked her in that. And I had no idea that they were ever in the audience. But that's just the question of who bought a ticket to come see me in a show. Like, I don't know. And that's that luck thing. I think one of the crazier stories I ever heard was back in the day when, like, you would watch things on tape and people would actually go into the office. And they were going back and forth apparently between 2 or 3 different people. And they had paused it on someone. And they finally went, let's cast this person. They went, okay.
Just like that.
The person they happened to, because they were down to like 3 people. They kept apparently going back and forth and back and forth. And they went, let's cast this person. I'm like, and that's just the luck of whose video was paused on the screen. And there's so many reasons you don't book a job. I've not booked jobs because of my hair color. I've not booked jobs because of my height. I've not, like, and you can't take any of that personally.
Yeah. I had jobs booked and I lost them because I didn't get the COVID test in on time. It's even more brutal. I have stories of that where you have it's in your hands, and yet because of a technicality, and this was the first days of COVID, and I was literally running to a hospital just to take blood for whatever they wanted for a test, and they said, it's too late. And I literally had 12 hours to do it, and there was snafus with communication. But yeah, it's not just the whims of a client, but it's also technicalities. You can film a commercial, you can be in a TV show or a movie, and you just get cut, and you're so excited.
Call, like, that's the day. Like, you get a phone call for a booking, but you're on set for something else, so your phone is dutifully put away, and you miss the phone call, so they go to the first refusal.
So it's timing and it's luck.
Yeah.
And timing. It's a real bitch. And just to circle back again to the physical rigors of performing, I read recently that actor Billy Zane, he had a quote saying that he believes actors should get hazard pay for accessing difficult emotions.
Right.
You know what? I think there's something to that.
Yeah, I can't tell you the number of times I've had to go in, be a lovely, pleasant human being, and then turn around and cry. And just turn that on like it's a faucet. Like, can you, and then you finish crying, and they want to have a conversation with you. Like, can you give me like 15 seconds to kind of like get it together, please?
What do you want for lunch, Sarah? Here's the menu.
A drink.
Yeah. Hold on, let me go get my bourbon in my bag.
Yeah, but the number of times I've had to do that where you're like just doing like heavy emotional stuff, and and it's either always right before or right after lunch.
Mm-hmm. That reminds me, I read that Margot Robbie can cry on cue, but not only that, she can direct which eye the tear will come out of. I'm like, you know what? Damn you, Margot. How the hell do you cultivate that skill? But
I can cry on cue, but I'm not that good.
No, I'm not that good either. All that and those looks, shit. Anywho, but I am grateful that our paths have crossed in the camera world. We have done a gig or two together, and I was reminded of the gig that we did. We did an industrial years ago for Intel. We drove up to Newark, New Jersey, and from Philly in the snow. And I guess I'm bringing this up because it's not so much the job that's memorable, but the circumstances around the job. If you recall, we drove up there. We drove up to not a studio, not anything industrial, but we drove up to a typical 2-story home.
It was a condo, yeah.
Yeah, in suburbia. We were on a residential street, and the set was a house, but the windows were boarded up. The shades were drawn.
Okay, you're making this sound really creepy.
That's the point. There was a girls were walking in with wigs. So it didn't look good. Like, strangers are going in and out of there all hours of the day. I can't imagine what the neighbors were thinking.
Well, we know what the neighbors were thinking. That we had the cops called on us.
We did.
Okay, we didn't. Apparently the day before they did, and because it was an association, and they apparently called the cops saying that we were filming porn there because people were walking in and out with clothes. There's a bunch of different people, and there's rigs and all there's blackout curtains on all of the windows. And I'm like, okay, that's not true. But even if it were, that's not illegal. So the cops got called, and I remember hearing that story at lunch that the cops had been called a day or two before.
The set was in the basement.
Well, okay. Part of, for clarity for people listening to this,
it's not what you think, folks.
It actually was a really cool setup because it was an industrial, it's a training video, and the basement was set up to look like a Radio Shack. For those of you that know what that is, it looked like a Radio Shack type place, all these different tech things for sale. And then the main floor where you walk in was made to look like an apartment, so they could use that for at-home scenes. And then the second floor where the bedrooms were was hair and makeup and holding. So it was actually, I thought, a really genius way to do production for the show. And then they don't have to worry about breaking it down and making it look like it did before. They just leave it because it's their space.
Mm-hmm. Just rent the house and off you go.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty cool. But nevertheless, the shady element was there. And I think I have the shady element beat. I remembered going back to one of my first gigs when I started. I was modeling for a book cover, some independent
Were you modeling for Harlequin?
No. But I'm the book. I'll put the book cover on YouTube. It's me in a bed with the sheet pulled up to my eyes, and I'm looking very tense. And the woman in the bed is looking at me with disgust. And the point being is that it was probably midday. It was midday, teeming rain, and I check into this seedy motel near the Philadelphia International Airport with a photographer carrying a bunch of equipment and 2 Asian girls and me. I'm pretty sure I could imagine what the clerk was thinking when we checked in to this room where the sheets were scrubbed to within an inch of their lives.
See, that's the sketchier part to me.
It didn't look good when we checked in. What are these 4 people doing? But it was not what it seemed. But again, it's, looks can be deceiving.
Mm-hmm.
But in any case, we can keep going. But a lot of commendable TV work. Spokesperson for WeBuyAnyCar.com, National Spot, Lincoln Financial. It goes on and on. But I did want to bring up in terms of films. I think you particularly shine in period pieces.
Oh, thank you.
Talk to me briefly about what it was like doing the Yorktown show.
Oh my God. So I feel like there's so many good stories to tell about this. The first of which was the audition. So the casting director was in Charlottesville, Virginia. So this is back before the pandemic. So I know I'm going to have to haul my cookies to Charlottesville, which is not a short drive. I get up really early. I drive down there. And on my initial audition form, I had said that I lived in Williamsburg because my parents live in Williamsburg. I wanted to make it look like I was a local because I could work as a local because I've got a place to stay there. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't lying, but I wasn't telling the complete truth. So I get to the audition. They have told us do not wear any makeup because this is going to be set during Battle of Yorktown. So 1781. I have like a little powder on. I've given myself a little bit of a lip just so I don't look like death warmed over on camera. I get in there. We had to fill out a form saying, you know, your height, your accents, your like all that stuff that you fill out. But I put my actual address because I knew if they brought it up, I could actually tell them what the situation was. And of course, it came up. You didn't say you were from Pennsylvania in your email. I said, no, I didn't. I said Williamsburg because that's where my parents live. Oh, okay. We're filming in Richmond. I went, yeah, it's like an hour drive. Not a big deal. Then, okay. All right, cool. So I do the audition, felt really great about it. I ended up booking it and they were so kind because they're like, you know what? We're still going to put you up in a hotel because the call times are really early. I'm like, you don't have to do that. I brought this on myself. They said, yeah, we're still going to put you up in a hotel. So it's a Battle of Yorktown. I am playing this really fascinating woman, Sarah Osborne Benjamin. And if you ever want to hear a really cool story about a revolutionary badass, look her up. And it's literally, in terms of like the actors, it's me and like 100 men.
Mm-hmm. You got cannons going off in the background. It's epic.
Oh, it was amazing. So we were shooting just outside of Richmond, Virginia, and we were on this huge plot of land that I could not figure out what was making it feel like I was in the time period until all of a sudden I realized there's no wires. There were no telephone poles. So you could film these beautiful wide scenes and it looks like the right time period because you don't have things like cell phone towers and telephone poles in the background somewhere. They actually filmed part of Lincoln there for that same reason. But yeah, so we've got all of the cannons going off, which were man operated. So sometimes they would go off when they were supposed to, and sometimes they would not go off when they were supposed to. We had different pots that were radio like wired so they could have things go off and look like cannonballs were hitting the ground or exploding. So we had, you know, cork and dirt and moss flying. And in the middle of all that, don't forget your lines. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, it was just beautiful and a really wonderful experience. Yeah, and it was shot on 3 RED cameras that they stitched together into a 210 degree, basically theater in the round when you go see it. And it is now playing at the Revolutionary Museum at Yorktown.
Beautiful.
The American Revolutionary Museum at Yorktown in Yorktown, Virginia. Yeah.
Wow. I bring it up, because it was just nice to be part of something with a lot of production value. It just makes you look good.
Yeah, yeah. And it was just cool to be a part of. Like, and I also felt very taken care of on that set. That's another one of those like fun stories that I love to tell. Whenever you're doing a period piece, make sure you get your microphone before you get into wardrobe. So they got me into all the wardrobe, like, you know, the buckle shoes. And I'm not going to lie, I was wearing a couple of things that were not period appropriate that you could not see. Like I was wearing tights because it was cold, because we were shooting in October. So So I was wearing a couple of things that were not technically correct, but you couldn't see them. So all that stuff. And then we go to put my microphone on me, and the guy doing sound goes, okay, I need you to take this wire and drop it down. Stop. That's not dropping anywhere. I am in stays, which for those of you that don't know, stays are the earlier version of a corset. And they're pretty form-fitting. So like, it's like nothing's going to drop down in between my stays and my camisole. So he's like, well, can you just bend? I'm like, no, that's the whole point, is that from my bust line to my hips, I cannot bend. That's the whole point of what I'm wearing. It's an undergarment. So the sound guy literally had to reach up in between my stays and my camisole to pull my wire from my microphone through to wire me for sound. He did not make that mistake the next day.
Don't get any ideas, sound guys.
He was mortified. It was really funny. I didn't care because I'm like, I know you're just doing your job, but he was mortified.
Sure. Well, you got to pretend to be mortified.
Okay, if he's that good of an actor, he should have, been in the movie.
Well, let's go from big sets to smaller sets, and I'm transitioning into. I'm going to try to make a connection between a small set and other work away from acting, if I can. Obviously, most actors have to have support jobs, and that's just the way it is. And for a few years, you worked for the Philadelphia Phillies.
I did.
Major League Baseball. Tell me, what is a Phanstormer?
Oh my God. So a Phanstormer is, I think we were technically part of the entertainment department, but my job, they paid me to do this, was, we show up at the beginning of the game, and if you had ordered a birthday, you could pay to have a goober like me come up and sing happy birthday and get all the people in the section to do it along with you and throw confetti on them, and you get a birthday card and a hat. And the baseball hat was different every season. So yeah, I got paid to watch baseball and sing happy birthday to people. And we weren't allowed to sing, obviously, during gameplay because people paid to see the Phillies, not to see me sing. And it's also dangerous. Like if you're in the lower decks and a foul ball comes flying by, it's just dangerous. So it was kind of, because I am a huge baseball fan. So I was getting paid to watch baseball and sing happy birthday. And then occasionally we would do other things too. Like I got to shoot hot dogs with the Fanatic. I got to shoot t-shirts a couple of times, which means obviously being on the field. 1 year for Flag Day, I got to play Betsy Ross, and I got to ride on the ATV with the Fanatic. I've been on top of the dugout. Yeah, and then I ended up meeting several Phillies in my time that I was there, and you have to act completely normal. And meanwhile, you're like, Mike Schmidt, you're the coolest, but you can't say that. You have to act completely normal when you're meeting Mike Schmidt and Brad Lidge, and trying not to completely geek out. But yeah, it was awesome. I did that job, I think, for 7 seasons, and I got paid to watch the World Series for 2 years. Like,
I went to the World Series. I paid $1,500.
Yeah,
you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, I actually called. This is what a nerd I am. The Joe Blanton home run. I was working that game, and we're up in like the third deck because we're just trying to find a place to be able to see the game because it's so crowded and no one's walking the concourse during the playoffs. And one of the people, because it was cold, one of the people was like, you know what? I think I'm just going to head home. It's so cold. And I said, but you're going to miss Joe Blanton's home run. Next pitch. And everyone looks, I'm like, I was kidding. He's a pitcher. They're not supposed to do that. But
I was there. I was there. I was in 200. I was in just off the Hall of Fame club with my father.
Yeah.
And I knew, I just knew in my bones that when Blanton hit the homer, we were going to win this series. We were just going to win. And I did not. My father was a little temperamental guy, rest his soul, but he wanted to get out before the traffic. So he's like, all right, we're going to win. Let's get out of here. Like, come on, that's the World Series. We left early. at game 3, 4, whatever it was, of the 2008 World Series.
That was game 4.
And we were the only people in the parking lot. I'm like, okay, we're going to beat the traffic, but at what cost, Dad? But
it wasn't when they actually won the World Series.
No, it was a funky. There was a rain delayed final game, and then they brought it back. It was the only game that didn't rain in that series.
It was the only game that didn't rain. Yeah, because game 3 started in a rain delay.
It was really funky. They waited till the score was tied in game 5, and then they brought it back, and then we won. But we did redeem ourselves in 2009. We got to watch the Phillies beat the Dodgers to win the pennant in 2009, and we stayed until we were the last people in the stadium. So, yeah. He's like, oh, come on, don't. Man, I had to spend the money. I had to surprise him. Oh, we'll go next year. I'm like, there may not be a next year. And sure enough, there wasn't. So take advantage when you can. But getting off my tangent, is it safe to say that Phanstorming is, in a way, theater?
Yeah, totally. The performances are just much shorter.
Yeah. Smaller audience.
Yeah, the audience is like whoever's in the section and feels like paying attention, because there's always one drunk idiot that's like, you be quiet. But yeah, so and it was super fun, and I got to I have a lot of really great stories from that job too. I think one of my favorites was Jackie Robinson Day. And when we were done doing all the birthdays, we could go around and like play trivia games with the kids, and we had these little like fanatic dolls we could give them. And there was this one little black boy who I guess was about, 9 or 10. And I said, okay, I've got some trivia questions for you. And if you get them right, I'm going to give you this little fanatic toy. He's like, yeah, cool. I'm like, all right. Who plays first base for the Phillies? Ryan Howard. Awesome. Who's the big green furry guy, star in his back? Fanatic. Right. And then the third question, I was always trying to do some fun trivia that maybe was teaching them something new. So it's Jackie Robinson Day. I said, why is every player wearing the number 42? Some dead guy? Yeah, that is true. So I'm going to give this to you with the caveat that you have to ask your dad, who I assumed that's the adult he was with. I said, you have to ask your dad who Jackie Robinson was and why he was important to baseball. And as I'm leaving, the dad just looks at me and got tears in his eyes and is mouthing, thank you. And it was just stuff like that was why I did that job for so long, because aside from the fact that I got paid to watch baseball, I just got to have these really great moments that still touch me.
You're imparting history, and you are one of the reasons why the Phillies have always been a class organization. Really cool story. Wow. Heaven forbid, kids leave empty-handed. I like now that that adults are giving foul balls to children.
I'm not going to lie, though. If I ever catch a foul ball, I'm keeping it.
Stay away from Sarah, folks.
Well, because I worked there for 7 years. If I got any kind of thing like foul ball, broken bat, I had to give it away. Yeah. I wasn't allowed to keep that stuff. So, and I worked there for 7 years. I'm like, so if I catch anything, I had to give it away. So, yeah. So if I ever actually catch a foul ball, I'm keeping it. Sorry, kid who's sitting next to me. I've been a fan for a long time, but I have no actual memorabilia from the games because I wasn't allowed to keep any of it.
Damn.
Yeah.
There's always a rub. You get it for free, but you ain't taking anything with you.
Yeah.
Wow. So theater, TV, film, industrials, voiceovers, it's obviously what we do it's extremely difficult. And you've endured for over 20 years. I'm around the 15-year mark.
I'm a stubborn bitch. What can I say?
Is that one of the ingredients for survival? Is passion enough to survive in this business? Obviously, you have to love it. Obviously, you have to have a passion for it. What keeps you going when there's no waves? Sometimes
it's hard. I think part of it is having a really good support system, because some days you hate this job. You're like, why the hell am I doing this to myself? Why am I working so hard? Why am I busting my ass? Why am I perpetually on a diet? Why am I doing this? Because sometimes you don't want to do it. And sometimes you need to take a break. And I think having a good support system is really helpful. And knowing that, see, I'm going to get all emotional now. Knowing that you have people who will support you, whether you stick with your decision to be an actor or not. Because I have a wonderful husband who said, you know, if you don't want to do this anymore, no one's making you do this. Do it because you want to do it. Or you feel like you have to do it. Don't do it because you feel like you're letting somebody down. Because that's not a good way to go about this industry either. No. But yeah, having a good support system. And I think it's just one of those things, it's cyclical, where you like find new things you love about it as you go through different phases of your life. And sometimes you're like, oh, I hate this so much. You're like, no, I don't. I was just in a fight with you. It's okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like being in like a relationship with a person.
It is a relationship, isn't it? It's a relationship with a fickle industry that wants you when they want you, and they don't care if you exist when they don't need you.
Right. Oh, yeah. Right. Her. Whatever happened to her?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's the rub, and I have to concur. I have to agree. There's nothing better when you're doing what you want to do, and you're busy, and you're in demand, and you're booking jobs, and then the jobs come out, and you get to show everybody, hey, look what I did.
Yeah,
it makes you feel great.
Yeah.
You get likes on social media, and everything is right with the world. And then a lull happens, and you know, you got bills to pay, and you think, what on God's green earth am I doing with my life?
And to me, the worst part of that is I can always figure out a way to make the money work, whether it's singing telegrams or standardized patient work or secret shops. I can always find a way to make the bills work. But the part that hurts my soul the most is when people go, oh, what have you been up to? Mm-hmm. You know, stuff. Mm-hmm. So that's the part that's like, no, don't ask me that question.
Isn't it funny? It's like whenever you go out in the world and you're talking with friends and acquaintances, it's like you have to have 2 to 3 resume updates ready to go when they ask you what you're doing.
Or when you go into an audition and they ask you, oh, what have you been up to?
Yeah.
Have your elevator pitch ready, everyone.
Well, I just did an audition for this. I shot that. And obviously there's some massaging that has to happen because you don't want to seem like you're just waiting for an email to come in.
Right.
Why do we do this? Why?
Because we're masochists.
It's like we were talking about this before we were rolling, but it's safe to say that we are not civilians. We are not normal. And it's always a fight to accept that designation.
Mm-hmm.
There's days where I want nothing more than to be normal. And I'll look on Facebook and I'll see people I went to college with, friends I grew up with, and I'll see that normal trajectory of kids are in college.
The vacation that you just went on.
Vacations and their kids. I'm thinking, well, if I did things normally, I would have kids in college right now. And I keep seeing that line of normalcy, and I see my line. And it seems like there's a through line for normalcy. Mm-hmm. Vacations, the graduations, the anniversaries, the birthdays. And I don't know where my trajectory is going. So it's also not just about riding the waves, staying on the surfboard, not getting too up or too down, but it's being at peace with uncertainty. I mean, there's uncertainty in general in life, but never more so in what we do because it's so fickle and we never know when we're working.
But I think you get those little moments of validation. Like I remember when I went to, I think it was my 10-year high school reunion. And like I said, I was the weird kid who did musicals and did theater and sings in Italian. And oh, she's weird. And I was in the bathroom and this woman who was not particularly nice to me in high school, asked me what I was doing like in life. And I'm like, oh, I'm acting. And here's a couple things I've done recently. And she goes, you know what? Good for you. You're the only person here who did with their life what they said they were going to do. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then I had to go back into the stall, like, fix my face. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so you get those little moments of validation from, muggles. Like just, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Or that Yorktown movie that I did where I get a random text from a friend like, is this you? And there's a picture of like, me, in an installation at the museum. Like, yeah, that's me. Yeah, I was here on my kid's field trip. And I went, yep. And you can tell them how you know that person for real.
Isn't it nice to know? It's just nice to know that you can look yourself in the mirror and say, I did not give up on my dreams.
Yeah, I didn't give up. Well, not just my dreams. I didn't give up on me. And I think that's easier with what we do, because you're always being judged for what you look like, or what your voice sounds like, or why did they make that acting choice, or I wouldn't have played it that way. I just feel like there's a lot of that judgment that goes on, and it doesn't stop when you get the job.
No.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of that like judgment thing that goes on. So like, it's really easy to be equally judgmental of yourself.
It's taken me well over a decade to find the strength, or just the calmness within me to say, you are enough.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's 20 ways to do it right.
Yeah.
There's no one way. And ultimately, it's finding, in terms of doing the work, finding the choices, having the ideas, your instinct, like any other job, grows with time. You get more sharper with your craft. Normally, we're in the service business. We're servicing the director. We're servicing the story. And as long as we can adjust and be flexible for the productions, then that's all we're doing. There's multiple ways to do it right, and there are definite ways to do it wrong.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as perfection. Perfection changes by the moment. It changes.
Well, and sometimes the beauty is in the flaws, right? Like, I mean, how many times have you been filming and they don't call cut? And like, all right, we're just going to roll with this. And that's the one that ends up, on screen, because they're like, you know what? It wasn't perfect, but it was so right.
Mm-hmm. It's a feeling.
Yeah. And you don't know what you skip a line and you screw up, and you both, whatever happens. Like, sometimes those moments are those little magic moments, and you can't recreate them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a good thing the camera was rolling on that take.
Isn't it funny how we live for the magic? And
Mm-hmm.
if we get everyone together, if we get the costumes on, if we roll the camera, if we turn the lights onto the stage, magic tends to happen.
But that can happen in auditions too. Like, I'm sure you've had that where you're like, okay, we're going to do this. And you're like, didn't love that one. But then when you have the one, you're like, that was it.
You can send that audition out, say, I'm
it's
good.
That feeling of I did work, and I did good work, and I submitted good work. And now it's not up to me, because I did everything I was supposed to do. Now it's on your hands, director.
Right. Exactly. Do your part. Let the director direct.
Yeah.
Do your part and be done with it. We've been going for a bit now.
Yeah.
If you had to encapsulate all of it, what's a nugget of wisdom or two that your acting journey has taught you that you take with you every day in life? What wisdom can you impart to actors or to anyone as a result of your acting experiences?
Not every project is the right project for you. And you're allowed to say no. Like, I've got things where I submit for stuff, and then I get the script and go, this isn't for me, because it's not doing anyone a service for you to audition for it and then possibly take a slot away from somebody else, or to then possibly book it when somebody else might have been like, I love this project so much and I really wanted to get that job, and then the person that's booked is like not all in. So I've had that where I go on casting networks or Actors Access or any of the other things, and you just go, you know what, I'm going to decline this. And then they ask you why. And I just want to like, why do I have to tell you? First of all, why do I have to tell you why? And then I just have to say something like, I booked to something else for that day. I'm so sorry.
Right.
Because you don't want to say, because I don't like the project. Like, Tim Burton's not for everyone. For like, not that I've auditioned for Tim Burton, but like, just certain styles are not for everyone. And it's okay to, turn certain projects down.
Right.
Like, it's okay to say no. You don't have to say yes to everything. You don't have to like everything.
As much as we think we can do everything, it's not always in the cards.
Yeah. I saw a comic recently talk about this, like the whole, like, women, you can have it all. I'm like, I don't want to have it all. That's exhausting.
Nah, I don't want it all either. Just a few things. I want to golf. I want to eat good food.
Mm-hmm.
Have a few laughs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Keep my house. And things change as you get old. It gets more simple. Hopefully, it gets more simple.
Yeah, but like the feeling the need to say yes to everything and please everybody, let it go.
Let that go.
let it go.
You heard it there, folks. Let things go and you'll feel better. So where can people find out more about you as the jobs and the productions come in?
So Facebook and Instagram are the best because I am woefully bad at keeping my website as up to date as frequently as I should. But my website is sarahlynnDewey.com, SarahLynnDewey, like the beach, or the duck, or the man that lost the election.com. And then you can follow me on Facebook, follow me on Instagram. Instagram is mostly me posting pictures of me making faces during auditions, or my dog, who literally has been in the room with me the whole time we've been recording this, because God forbid he should not be involved in me being on camera. He's like, what's going on?
Yeah.
He has to be around at all times.
Well, shout out again to Watson. And if you haven't heard Scott Langdon's podcast yet that I've published, listen to Scott and listen to and read Scott's musings on his website, Scott and His Dog. That's not the website. It's called Scott and His Dog. But if you go on to Scott's podcast, you'll see more information on how to connect with him on the interwebs.
By the way, I don't think we've said this. I know we've said I am married. Scott Langdon is my husband.
Yes. God bless Sarah and Scott.
He periodically gets called Mr. Dewey, which is always funny. Like, no, that's my dad.
Mr. Dewey and then Mr. Langdon.
Yeah.
We have to distinguish the two.
Right.
Well, here's to being strange. Here's to being the oddball, and in the most beautiful ways. Sarah Lynn Dewey, I appreciate you. Thank you for being here. Stay strange, stay beautiful, and stay odd. And I will do the same. And I will see you on set, my dear. Thank you for being here.
Embrace your brand of weird, y'all.